So, you've wasted your life. What now? You hide it well, but we both know it's getting harder and harder to drag yourself out of bed every morning, isn't it? With each passing day, you feel your potential dissolve like the 5 shovels of sugar you religiously stir into your extra strong cup of joe. And no matter how many additives you shoehorn in, it still tastes bitter, doesn't it, friend? You're convinced you've ruined your life, right? That you've squandered away all of those promises of greatness. Like the bank account of gifted and talentedness has run dry and they refuse to loan you some more because you haven't paid into it for years. Because reasons. How many nights do you spend tossing and turning as you ruminate over what ifs and could haves? Too many to count, eh? You're not alone. Honestly, these are the things that keep me up at night too. Or at least they were, until I had the strangest realization, and then everything changed. It's story time. You stared at her grave. Only it wasn't her grave anymore. It was your grave. You stared at your grave. If reincarnation exists, this venture into dark tourism is the closest you've ever felt to having proof. It stirred something within, an unsettling familiarity, an unspoken kinship. Standing there, by her final resting place, although poignant, felt somehow forbidden. You were a ghost at your own funeral. Your face beneath the soil as the mourners lay down their roses. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Sorry friend, you're out of luck. By being there, you've broken the laws of physics. You'd found yourself face to face with your doppelganger and disrupted the entire fabric of space-time. You see, if the wind had blown in a different direction 15 years ago, this would have been you. It's a sobering thought. This was the grave of Sylvia Plath. Without wanting to dilute you into nothing more than a pick-me girl begging for the attention of the Dead Poets Society, back then you felt that the connection ran deeper than just reading the bell jar because your teen years were bleak. Although they were, and you did. You told anyone who would listen that you could have written that book. Not in the ego-driven, I'm a tortured poet with incredible writing skills kind of way. That's ridiculous. No. In the, she ripped my experiences from my mind and articulated them like no one else seemed to understand kind of way. You felt she saw you when no one else did. But like anything else, as you know, that feeling passes. You move on, and you forget. Doors open, doors close. You build walls. You take wrong turns. You get cozy in dead ends. And in the years that passed as you dragged yourself through adulthood in survival mode, you saw your potential evaporate, like dregs of cider forgotten at a summer barbecue, sticky and rancid and surrounded by wasps. But in the same vein as the ghost of Christmas future showing Scrooge the grim reality of his greed-fueled capitalist ways, you walked away from Sylvia's grave with a new sense of purpose. Born again. You realise, unlike poor Plath, you are free. There are still some malnourished figs on your tree, and maybe with a bit of nurturing, you could coax them back to being juicy and fat and full of potential. Maybe new fruit can grow and replace the ones that had fallen. Maybe their decaying flesh could compost the soil and provide new life for the ones clinging on to hope, thereby proving their sacrifice wasn't in vain. But how do you rebuild so much lost potential? How does the phoenix ignite the flame while it's nothing but ash? And what is there even left to save? For years you assumed, like many, that there was a past you, a present you, and potentially, hopefully, a future you. But for whatever reason, after visiting the grave, that doesn't feel right anymore. You assumed that your recovery would be at the hands of archaeologists, unearthing the bones of the old you, while you pray that the pieces are intact enough to preserve. But that's wrong. That logic assumes that the old you died and decayed years ago. It implies a separateness, a you and a them to be put on a pedestal, to be posthumously admired in a way reserved only for those gone too soon. You know how every average Joe is eternally romanticised as an untouchable hero after they die. No one can compete with that. It implies a them that was buried long ago and destroyed, while a mediocre copy-paste clone continues, meaning you can never be better than the you who was lost. They will always be superior, and you will always be a cheap imitation. You, ordered from Wish. Utter bullshit. Enter Epiphany. What if they aren't dead? What if they are very much alive and have been all of this time? What if this was never an excavation, but a rescue mission? With that logic, not only could you revive the beloved version of yourself, you could surpass all previous benchmarks. It would allow you to grow stronger, bolder, smarter, or more creative, or however the Kanye song goes. But the question remains, how? The first step is simple. You have to identify what is lost. What parts need to be excavated? Where have the lights dimmed? Your humour, your creativity, your intelligence, your boldness. The parts of you that you loved may be buried under rocks etched with self-doubt, shame and fear. But they are still there. You can feel them. You can hear them crying for air. Now the hard part. How do you set them free? Well, to do that, you have to locate them again. They need grounding in some sense of reality. It's one thing to tell yourself that you're funny or talented or whatever, but in order for that ember to burn, you must breathe life into it. It has to take root in the real world and become three-dimensional. You have to believe it so hard that it seeps into your veins and becomes inseparable from your identity once more. Evidence is key here. Lock it down. Find a memory, a picture, a trophy, a note, anything that reaffirms what you believe, and hold onto it. Latch on tighter than a facehugger meeting John Hurt for the first time, and then let your brain do its thing. The frequency illusion is your best friend from now on. You're going to manipulate it to your advantage. If you're not familiar with the concept of frequency illusion, it's the phenomenon that happens when you buy a car and suddenly you see the same colour car everywhere. Or when you're having a bad day and all you see are red traffic lights. Or you develop a thing for angel numbers and you see 111 everywhere. It's a combination of selective attention and confirmation bias, noticing the things that support your beliefs while ignoring counter evidence. This is where you hack the system. This is where you start to search for moments in your present life that demonstrate the part of you that you desire. A compliment from someone, a laugh, a smile, any confirmation. Then intentionally start creating those moments. Pick up your paintbrush, share your joke, take that risk until eventually it becomes natural. And it will become natural. Now for the most important part, deciding where to focus your energy. How do you want to use your potential? For that step, you may want to tap into your maladaptive daydreams. They may be the key to discovering what's currently lacking from your life. Of course, if you're lucky enough to not have that flavour of trauma, normal fantasies will suffice. Where do they take you? What are the main themes? Who are you? And what are you doing? Once you know this, you can make a strategy to turn your dreams into reality. The point is, you don't have to remain stuck. You don't have to continue building on your regrets. You don't have to deny yourself the right to thrive because of doubts and opinions of others or societal expectations. The most important part is those figs are finally starting to flourish. Please don't give up hope, Doodlebug. Your potential is never truly lost. It's time to wake up and remember who the fuck you are.